Welcome to our weekly roundup on That's a Tap. I'm CT with my man DJ for another weekly edition, talking about all combat sports, the week news, UFC, boxing world, and let's hit on it. This episode, we're going to hit on the UFC Apex Kaikara France fight night. We will talk about Teofimo Lopez, Taylor, coming up this weekend. And we'll also hit on the Errol Spence Jr., Terence Crawford, and more. DJ, how are you feeling?
We're feeling good. It's been a minute since our last episode. Obviously, the combat world has been quiet for the past couple of weeks, but hey, UFC is back, and obviously we've got some big fights coming up. A big weekend of combat. I think if you may, like last week was maybe the calm before the storm, because this weekend we're looking at UFC 289. We're looking at Taylor versus Lopez. So there's plenty going on. But yeah, you're right, man. Like, let's start from the UFC event that happened in the past weekend. Another UFC Apex event. Hopefully, one of the very few more left before they go into full capacity crowds, even for fight nights. Great main event, obviously flyweight main event, very crucial for us, with someone across the pond in New Zealand fighting number 3 ranked flyweight contender Kai Kara France took on Albazi. Man, what did you think of that fight?
Look, the result is getting all the news, but yeah, the way it happened, I got to agree with the masses on this one, DJ. I mean, I don't think we're going to disagree on this. I don't know many people in the comment section like and subscribe, but Kai Kara France, what do you make of what he said about he lost 100K?
I mean, fair enough, man. Like, I think it's about time we start getting this. I think Israel Adesanya spoke about this, and he's been quite vocal about this quite regularly, is that, when do we start holding these people accountable? And it's a very controversial subject, because you are entrusting the outcome of a fight with 3 people, right? And it could be anyone. Obviously, Chris Lee, I think, has been someone who's been notorious for making the wrong decisions. However, having said that, look, it does impact the fighter a lot when it comes to, they're sacrificing a lot in a training camp. They're putting their blood, sweat, and tears and money into it, right? And then when you do think about it, when you do lose, you lose your win bonus, and all these kind of things, efforts, and you lose your rankings. I think Kai Kara France was talking about that. To be honest, man, I do think the judges got this wrong. I think it was quite obvious. We would talk about close fights. Look, this was a close fight. Yes, it was, right? I mean, there were rounds in there. I think up until sort of, other than the third round, maybe there's a couple other rounds that could have been considered as could have gone either way. But I mean, to be honest though, like when forward pressure and all that needs to come into play, I think Kai Kara France's forward pressure was high. He kept pressuring. He kept landing strikes. He outlanded him. He outlanded Albazi. I think other than that third round, right? And I mean, look, people may hate me for this, but I could even argue that third round for Kai Kara France. But however, if you were ever to give a round to Albazi, it would have been that third round, because where there was that threat of submission. Although nothing came off it, Kai was able to get out of it, and then obviously even advanced position, and then he was the one who was on top, raining down punches in that third round, which is why I also sort of, how you end the round plays a part too, right? So I think I was quite shocked when the result was announced. But I guess, look, maybe these things are now bringing enough attention, something to be done about this, right? I think I really like your idea of, we've spoken about this in the past many times. We spoke about this when the Lomachenko fight happened. And what you were suggesting is increase the number of judges. And I think that's, it's absolutely spot on, because it just obviously eliminates the error a lot more, because a lot more people. But who verifies who's going to sit behind those judges' desks, right? Like, who determines that? I know there's a lot of. I really like this website, Verdict. They're very good. But keep in mind, it's all of us voting in there, right? Now, once there is this question though, if it becomes the official judging app for a big sport, right? This is where the conflict of interest comes in, right?
Yeah.
You'd rarely see someone like, if you're purely going to base the judging on an app which has an influence of the fans, you're going to see, fan favorite fighters continuing to win because it's going to be very, so there's that sort of controversial topic there as well. So
what do you think of this idea? You may have, I think, suggested this to me. Former fighters, they become part of a body, a commission or a league, former fighters league. And it's kind of like a badge of honor where if you've had a successful fight career, it provides another career, like after the fight career, where they can then become judges and then take a big, say in the sport moving ahead.
Yeah, I think you're right. Look, there is always going to be that bias though, right? Sometimes even as a fighter, you still have bias towards either guys you've trained with. So always that conflict of interest is always going to be present, right? When it comes to this. Look, to be honest, people who are completely removed from the sport judging, on paper is the best outcome, but what I'd like to see a lot more, and there's not enough information around this, is what sort of education are these judges getting? You know what I mean? What's the training process looking like? What's the criteria to become a judge? Is just someone just because they've been with a certain organization, does that warrant them just stepping into judging? What level of education, what training, what sort of refreshers are being done? What's the reprimanding process looking like, right? I mean, we see in our normal day-to-day jobs, if we are missing certain things, if you're not performing to the standards that is required, we are being performance managed. We are being held accountable. So where is that, and is there a possibility to make that knowledge, that information public, right? Make it public where we see, okay, well, there was an error made and this is how this was. And I guess, and again, this becomes really difficult as well, but maybe introducing an appeal process. Not just an appeal with a probability of, but just an official review, right? Once a fight's done, if the body or the governing body confirms that that fight was close enough, that should give the ability to the fighter on the losing end to make an appeal. A formal appeal for them to review that and review tape and review that decision.
Yeah, good idea.
Right. So there's a lot that can be done, but something needs to start happening. And I feel like increasing the numbers helps. Maybe removing, if you're judging, you need to be removed from the arena. Right. Obviously, the crowd influence takes place a part too. Obviously, this doesn't matter because it was in the apex, but you gotta have to be removed from the arena. And then also, I feel like that you need to be removed from each other when you're judging. You're just looking at it from your own lens. Without being influenced. So
I like one thing you quickly, I'll say you stood out is that the training. I'm more thinking along the lines of simulation training. Like they all judge sparring or mock fights. And you compare the notes, and then you compare what's their interpretation of a major strike. Versus someone else's interpretation.
True, correct.
And then it's just more practice, Like just like a fighter, practice makes perfect.
Correct. And then we always see two judges give it to two different fighters for the same fight. You know what I mean? So what's the thought process behind it? So
Now it was a split, but you might know, what were the actual, was there numbers on?
I think it was 48-47. 48-47 either way,
Yeah.
But Chris Lee had given it 3 rounds to 2.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know, 4 rounds to 1 maybe. I'm not even sure. Well, it was just atrocious.
Yeah, I know you like this too, but I'll like to watch the fight twice.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I'll watch it again.
I want to watch it again too. Yeah,
and then we'll touch on it again.
Yeah.
But what else stood out to you?
Man, the core main the core main event, Caceres.
Yeah.
The Caceres fight, that was fight of the night. A non-stop action, right? Like, it was back and forth. Both guys were landing good shots, eating a lot of shots. I think, man, it was well worthy of that fight of the night. I was fully entertained. It had me pumped up going into the main event. I want to quickly touch on Jim Miller, the legend, right? 42 fights in the UFC, the most as a UFC record. I believe 24 wins. Again, record, and he knocked someone out. Right, at this age to perform the way he's performing, and I guess one of the key things to note out is that he was in UFC 100. He was featured in UFC 200.
He's older than me,
and he wants to be featured in UFC 300. Right, so that'll be a nice feat. I believe UFC 300. It could be, I think, in April. So man, like if he gets to that milestone, that'll be amazing, and obviously to be able to sign off with a win, a true legend, definite future Hall of Famer.
Do you, just quickly on that, do you think I don't know how active he's been over the years, but do you think a fighter's career, the longevity,
Yeah.
like could help benefit if a fighter's not as active? Like, let's say they fight once a year for a couple years.
Yeah, yes and no.
Twice
I
a
guess
year.
yes and no, because if you are active, right, you're obviously gonna. How do I put this? If you're not as active, right, obviously your performance is gonna
Yeah.
not be as up to mark. You know, you're fighting in a premier organization, and
Yeah.
if you're not in competition for majority of the time that you're in that organization, and when you're fighting the best of the best, that's gonna cost you.
Yeah.
Right, we've spoken about ring rust. We know how that works, and
Yeah.
you know if you're reasonably active, you know that contribute towards a better result.
Yeah.
But also on the downside, you've got the injuries, and you've got to manage your physicalities.
Yeah.
Having said that, man, like I would like to think he has been active because he has the most fights in the UFC, right? So that should
Yeah.
suggest that he's been
But
active.
if it is stretched over a period of time, though,
Yeah,
it
yeah, that's
allows
true.
him to.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But from memory, I know like even in the past 12 months, he's actually fought 3 times. So
Okay,
you know
yeah.
that's a fair bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I obviously wanted to mention about Andrei Arlovsky getting knocked out, which was unfortunate.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's time. He's obviously a veteran who's been fighting for a very long time. He's been a world champion in the UFC, and I think maybe thinking about winding down
Yeah.
makes sense. Unfortunate. Sorry, go.
Yeah, just on that, man, UFC showing no mercy in releasing people.
Yeah.
You know, like if they age and they have a couple losses, and because they're wanting to welcome in new talent
Yeah.
so quick, and I feel like, do you agree that they're letting people go real quick?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of people getting released, man. Like we
Yeah.
are. And look, it's just going to continue to happen because everyone wants to be in the UFC, right? Like so,
Yeah,
you
gotta
know,
make it like Premier.
Yeah.
Yeah, like let all these other organizations benefit.
Yeah.
And take on the scrappy.
yeah. I mean,
In
look,
a respectful way, I mean, you know what
Yeah.
I mean.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, look, the other organizations benefit too. I think you made a really great point just before, where when you said, look, maybe someone could be an average name in the UFC, given the size of the machine and the star power that it possesses.
Yeah.
But when they go into another organization, they could be the biggest star in that organization.
Yeah.
We could benefit them so much in terms of,
Fighter pay.
pay,
Like, yeah.
in terms of the spotlight and benefits as well. So look, no shame in that. I think sometimes you just got to take the right path, right? Someone who I'm curious to see what their next step is, Darren Till. Darren Till, obviously left the UFC
Yeah,
on
yeah.
his own terms.
Yeah.
But I just like to see what's next for him. Just quickly, also want to mention Jamie Mullarkey. Obviously had a loss, a TKO
Yeah,
loss
that
to
was-
Naimov, the Tajikistan fighter. While it was quite upsetting to see, we
Yeah.
also saw that the crowd and the support that the Tajik fighters were getting from their
Yeah.
hometown, where they've filled out a stadium back home just to watch the fight. So it's good to see all these regions stepping up.
Yeah. Huge.
But yeah, man, overall a decent event. I enjoyed the UFC event. Obviously, I wasn't a big fan of the result of the main event, but look, it is what it is. I'm sure Kai Kara France will bounce back. We might see him in the Sydney card, to be honest. So he might have a
Yeah.
quick turnaround and bounce back.
Hopefully, yeah, we won't hear haven't heard the last of
No, absolutely
the
not.
judging, and we
Yeah.
will be putting out a preview of UFC 289
Yeah.
Canada
This week,
in a few more days.
Yeah.
So as we head towards the weekend.
Charlie
so look out.
Olives is back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look out
excited,
for
man.
that.
That's exciting.
Can't wait to break that down. Now let's hit on the fight coming up. Well, there's a few. There's a big one this weekend, but also the much anticipated Spence Crawford.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I want to talk a little bit about the Lopez Taylor fight really quickly because,
Yeah.
hey, call me a simple person, but man, I love it whenever Teofimo Lopez fights because that's entertainment guaranteed,
Yeah.
win or lose, right? Obviously, he's 19 fights in, 18 wins and 1 loss. Lost to our boy, George Ferocious Kambosos. One of the best fights I've seen in Madison Square Garden. Look, they returned to Madison Square Garden. Josh Taylor undefeated, although a very controversial decision in his last fight against Cattrall. He comes on, putting his undefeated record on the line, and he's also putting his WBO and Ring Magazine belts on the line
Big
for
time.
the super welterweight title, right?
Yep.
And you know, it's going to be an exciting fight, man. I mean, I enjoyed the press conferences. Obviously, Taylor's not in the US yet, so they've been doing the media presses remotely, and it's just been exciting. Like, it's been fireworks. They seem to be genuinely don't liking each other, or not
Yeah.
liking each other. Sorry. So it's man, I'm excited for the fight. Two talented fighters, two talented boxers, very technical. You know, I love watching the lighter guys fight because the pace will be extremely high and the technicality of it as well. We saw with the Haney Lomachenko fight. But CT, what are the odds? What are we looking at?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I cannot.
Where
wait.
am I putting my money? Let me know.
It's close.
Okay.
I won't say it's you know, guys heavily favourite, but we're looking at, according to Sportsbet Down Under in Australia,
Yeah.
Josh Taylor is the favourite
Yeah.
at $1.64.
Yeah.
For Lopez at a $2.45.
$2.45,
$17 for the draw.
Okay, fair enough.
So
Yeah, I mean-
based on that, what surprises you? Anything?
Yeah, oh no, understandable because the defending champ is obviously the favorite.
Yeah.
He's also undefeated, right? Lopez had a defeat,
Yeah.
then had a win, and then obviously had that controversial moment in his last fight in television where he was caught on camera asking his corner saying, "Do I still got it?" You know, you know what I mean. So I think maybe people are writing him off, or maybe people are doubting
Yeah,
where his mindset is at. But hey, look, you know what, man? Like, if I could put my 2 cents in and my prediction, I'm going for the upset. I'm putting my money on Lopez. I feel like, man, he's a dog. Every time he fights, he brings it. I like his spirit. It's a never back down attitude. And man, he packs a punch. He can knock people out. Taylor's no joke either. Very technical, and you know, he's got some mean tricks himself.
Yeah.
But hey, look, I'm backing Teofimo Lopez in this one.
Okay. I could definitely see a world, Teofimo take this one.
Yeah.
But something tells me I'm just going to stick with the favourite, the champ,
yeah.
Josh Taylor.
Absolutely.
But I think it's going to be an incredible fight, close, and maybe controversial.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Hey man, let's take a moment to mention this. That boxing is at you know, it's all-time high at the moment.
Good
with the
timing.
best fighting the best, right? One of the reasons why I like Teofimo Lopez is he's never been shy to call out a challenge, right? He always calls out. So like, man, look, pretty excited for that. Talking of big fights happening in boxing, you know, we got the Spence Crawford, right? This is a fight that we've been wanting for a very, very long time for the unified welterweight championships. Arguably 2 of the best. Now, talk about making it very difficult for us to predict. Now, this is a fight. Obviously, we won't make predictions today. We'll do it closer to the fight. But I do want to make mention it's a big time fight. It's happening in T-Mobile Arena. Errol Spence Jr. versus Terence Crawford.
Best of the best.
Man, mark my words, it'll be one of the most watched fights around the globe in boxing. So even UFC might stay away that weekend when that fight takes place.
That'd be wise.
You know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and that's a tap. We'll be there with our live react.
29 July,
Right after.
Right after, yeah. What other news in boxing?
So we obviously got some big heavyweights. I always like the big boys.
Yeah, of course.
We've got Anthony Joshua, Eddie Hearn. Apparently, they've put out the offer to Dillian White.
Managed by him.
Yeah. So, you know, there seems to be a bit of back and forth.
Yeah.
Is that going to be, you know, happen? And then we got the mandatory that might be coming Tyson Fury's way.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who's the mandatory?
So, it's escapes me at the moment, but we'll
revisit that.
We'll
like
revisit it. But yeah, the name escapes me at the moment. But I think look, it's time for Fury to settle on something. What do you think?
He has to. Like, I mean, man, interesting things coming out of in terms of Fury news, because, you know, Dana White 2 weeks ago said that he's not into gimmick fights and was, you know, showing some hate to Francis Ngannou wanting to box, you know, the likes of Tyson Fury and then Wilder and Joshua. And then today or yesterday we hear him saying he wants to make the John Jones and Fury fight inside the cage.
Yeah.
Well, look, it's interesting to see that. I don't think that fight happens. I don't think Tyson Fury, he doesn't have anything to gain out of that, right? And he's obviously the A side in terms of the revenue generation, etc. Unless, like, obviously, you know, he wants to, you know, for the sake of his pride, he wants to, you know, I'm the baddest man on the planet. He might just take on that challenge, but I doubt it. Unless maybe once his career is done, they might do it as an exhibition. But yeah, look, I don't think that's happening. I think Usyk's been ordered to fight Daniel Dubois. That's in August, I believe. That's his mandatory.
Yep.
And then after that, I think Usyk's now signed with a UAE organization.
Yeah.
Big bucks there for him. Good on him. Rightfully, well deserved and rightfully so. And I think after that fight, I think the UAE team will get that done. I feel like they'll get the Fury Usyk done in the UAE.
Yeah. Seems like that, that's the thing. And so the mandatory could be coming, and it's very possible that it's AJ.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very possible it's AJ. The current rankings, Deontay Wilder number 1, but Andy Ruiz number 2, Anthony Joshua number 3.
Okay.
And Frank Sanchez number 4.
But we've seen mandatory in boxing doesn't really mean much. You can bypass it, right?
Yeah.
You can, the clauses to bypass it.
If they make something, it's just going to speed things up.
Yeah, it'll speed things up.
Which should happen, really. He's just... There just seems to be a new rumour every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's quite frankly just distracting.
You need to stop the rumour. Yeah, I mean, same, I'm with you. Stop the rumours and let's just announce a fight. If there's no fight, then let's not talk about nothing until the fight's finalised. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, the heavyweight division's been on a bit of a turmoil, for a bit now. So let's see what happens. I know Joshua had that fight with Franklin.
Yeah.
But look, either way, if Joshua White's a good fight, Joshua White too, or if they make Joshua Wilder like they're saying, Ben, I've said this before, I'll say this again, or I'll keep saying this. Ultimate goal dream would be that tournament they kept talking about. Fury Usyk and then Wilder Joshua in the UAE. We might even travel there. But outside of that, look, I'd love to watch the heavyweights fight. I'll tune in every single time. It's just that the fights need to happen. That's it.
Yeah, definitely. And another big fight's happening, which will be Diaz-Paul.
Oh, Diaz-Paul, man.
You looking forward to that?
I am. I mean, I'll watch it. Of course I'll watch it. I mean, Nate Diaz is an OG. I'll watch that. Tough fight for Diaz as well. We'll obviously preview that as well, much closer.
Yeah, definitely.
But I know Diaz was expressing some concern, saying the state they're fighting in is they don't have marijuana legalized, so you want to fight somewhere else.
Of course.
Well, that's Nate Diaz for you. I reckon he will turn up and the fight will happen.
Yeah. It'll have a lot of eyes on it.
Yeah.
There was some news also from the BKFC 41 that was, resoundingly successful in terms of media coverage and buzz. Yeah. But there was reports that they didn't do as well pay-per-view wise, and that there was 700,000 illegal streams.
Yeah. So they did 100k pay-per-view buys, and they had 700k illegal views.
Okay.
But
there's still eyes on it. Hopefully that converts to pay-per-view buys.
Yeah.
But I said to you, they're just going to keep putting on events, ride the momentum.
Consistency, I think that's what some of these other organizations fail to do, and that's why they find it hard to compete against the UFC, is the consistency in putting up shows. I think part of that is because of the depth of the roster. The UFC has a very deep roster, and they've got all the fighters locked in. So these other organizations are left to dry. Do you know what I mean? But change the model, make it fortnightly, make it monthly, but make it consistent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then work with the fighters you have. I'm sure we can sign some fighters and maybe change the model, shorter cards, whatever it is.
But yeah, I get if you're parrying, you're their big star, and you're taking bare knuckles to the face and skin, it is going to take you a bit of time to turn it around.
Yeah.
And that, unlike these other sports, but that's why they have the advantage. Yeah. I don't see it changing.
No, I don't think so.
We're still always going to want to tune in
to
that big bare knuckle fight.
Yeah.
But boxing and UFC.
Yeah.
Obviously, after the Canada card 289, we'll look ahead to 290.
Yeah.
Which is going to be, it's the most stacked.
Yeah, that whole month,
recent memory.
The whole July card is stacked. 2 cards, and both of those cards. If you're a UFC fan, forget about it. If you're a UFC, if you're a fight fan, don't miss it. That's it. Yeah. It's got all the best fights, all the best fighters, pound for pound greats, you name it. Everyone's in there.
Yep. And just lastly, we obviously saw the Haney, and we talked about that. But there's significant momentum now that a Shakur Stevenson Haney fight is they both acknowledge that they're
going to fight.
That's a fight.
I mean, that's a fight I'd like to see. Lomachenko's always going to be around in that conversation.
Yeah.
Right. I think maybe Haney might do Shakur and then come back if he wins to do the Lomachenko rematch, saying, look,
Yeah.
let me put a stop to it. Or if Shakur wins, guaranteed he's probably going to give Lomachenko a shot as well. It'll just come down to what they want to do. Obviously, Tank Davis is out of action for a bit, for about 3 months. He's got his own personal troubles he's dealing with. So
definitely.
there's a few things going on. But man, the boxing world is on fire at the moment, right? And
100%.
it's been better than it ever has been, which is good. And I think it's catching on, which is what the best thing is. It's catching on. So.
Aside from some controversy, which there'll always be.
There always
boxing is kind of one of the reasons we love it.
Yeah.
Still, but great episode. Lovely to recap the weekly roundup with you.
Yeah.
Look out for our next week's one, and of course, in a few days we'll be dropping the UFC preview 289.
289.
Canada, back to Canada. You guys deserve it. Big fan base, big following.
Yeah.
Ever since GSP and the like. But let's hope this card delivers, and I can't wait to break that down with you.
Absolutely.
For this one, that's a wrap.
Catch you later, guys.
Peace.